There's definitely all the scenes in the bus, right? Like those are my favorite scenes. They are iconic moments in themselves, right? Like you are in this tour bus and there are so many layers of relationships, right? Like even if you look at it, the way they are sitting आगे से लेके पीछे तक, there is almost like a hierarchy of the way they are, in real life as well. I mean, in the band life as well, It's just such an iconic moment in US pop culture history in the 70s when rock and roll music was really at its zenith. And here comes a child, who is like starry eyed and he wants to write about the scene and really memorialize it in pop culture history as we all know and we have consumed over the years. Lay me down and she's so
Hi Sharin, welcome to my podcast, which is called Spoiler Alert with me, Cinephile Sanket. So Sharin, in this episode, we are discussing one of your all-time favorite films, which is called Almost Famous, which is written and directed by and co-produced by Cameron Crowe, and which stars Kate Hudson, then Patrick Fugit, and Billy Crudup, and many others as well. We'll talk about those characters, those actors as well. So first of all, Sharin, how are you? And please introduce yourself, and then please introduce this film.
Thank you, Sanket, for having me. I'm very happy to be here to talk about one of my all-time favorite films that has had a deep impact on me as a human being, at least on my 20s. My name is Sharin. I run a books podcast called Books on Toast, and I'm also a brand consultant by day. And I love watching movies. I'm a pop culture maniac. तो मुझे as you can see मेरी दीवारों पे मेरी cupboards में खाली किताबें और अजीब सी चीजें मिलेंगी because I'm just like a fanatic. So one of the movies that had a deep impact on me and my pop culture mania is Almost Famous. It's written and directed and co-produced by Cameron Crowe, who is also a pop culture maniac. He was he was a rock journalist, and this is kind of a semi-biographical, fictionalized account of his life in a way. And it's a coming of age story of this young boy who wants to go on a road trip with a band and write about them for publication. And it's just such an iconic moment in US pop culture history in the 70s when rock and roll music was really at its zenith. And here comes a child, who is like starry eyed and he wants to write about the scene and really memorialize it in pop culture history as we all know and we have consumed over the years. And it came out in 2000 and it's a 22-year-old film. And yeah, I have loved watching it over and over again since I was maybe 15 or 14 myself. So yeah.
So, Sharon, first of all, when did you watch this film for the first time, and what was your feeling like when you watched this film? And since for this podcast, like you rewatched this film, so how did you feel? Just like tell me all about it.
Oh, so I've been watching this film since the first time I watched it. I've watched it all my life. Okay, let's just put it like that. So the movie came out in 2000. I must have seen it in 2002 or 2003, and I remember I watched it on Star Movies in my house. And I'm a small town girl. I come from Chandigarh, so for me this was like a really insane world. And it's around the same time that I was discovering rock music myself. So I was listening to the bands that were forming the backdrop of this scene that was represented in the movie, the rock scene. So Bob Dylan,
Led Zeppelin.
Led Zeppelin, like these were the bands that I was listening to and forming a deep connection with. And I'm like a very curious person by nature. तो मुझे अगर कोई पसंद है ना उसका पूरा मैं like I'll just research that in person's entire background, history and everything. And I mean, and this is like 2001 2002 is when I had seen that movie. Us time we didn't have internet, like we had like a dial-up connection, so I used to like stay up all night and research all these bands and like really like go deep into the history and stuff. So So I felt I was William, who is the chief character in this film, right? Like he's this 15-year-old guy who is trying to be this older person and is going on a road trip with this band all across America and performing at multiple venues. And he's doing a story for Rolling Stone magazine. And I'm like, oh my God, I want to be part of this world. I am William. I want to work at Rolling Stone magazine. So I remember, like, that thing, it just sort of something it did to me. It formed me into a person, and that's when I realized my mission in life was to work at Rolling Stone magazine. I wanted to be a music journalist, and I wanted to find bands like Stillwater that I could obsess over. I wanted to be backstage and hang around the band, understand how music worked, and really like get into the scene. And I wanted to have that tape recorder and ask like a Russell Hammond, so what is it about music that you love? Like, how did you write this song? I wanted to be that person. So over the years, I have watched this movie over and over again just to remind myself, of that 15, 16-year-old me who had watched that film and fallen in love with it, right? Because I really felt connected to that character. And I feel like that is the one thing that Cameron Crowe has done supremely well, considering the fact that this is also semi-biographical. Like Cameron Crowe is also William, William Miller himself. He was that 15, 16-year-old child who grew up in San Diego in 6th Avenue. He watched all these brands grow. His sister went and became a flight attendant. He went and, interviewed the Allman Brothers band. He went and interviewed the Eagles, and he spent time on the road with this band. There is a Penny Lane that the character Penny Lane is based on. There is a sincerity in this movie that is so authentic, and it talks about an era where it was possible to do this. You could go with a band on a trip and spend a really good time getting to know them, understanding the pulse and the rhythm of that entire moment in history, and then write about it. I'm like, what could be better in the world to do, other than this? And so he really brings it out on screen so beautifully that you want to go back and live that life. So, I mean, I just finished, like you also just finished watching this film, right, Sanket? You also told me. So I also just finished watching this movie again, and I'm like, मैं अभी भी मेरे को वही लगता है, like जो मेरे को पहली बार लगा था. It's just, it's a nod to
Magic.
15-year-old me also. It's magic. It is magic. It's a great movie.
Absolutely. I actually watched this film, I don't know when, but like some years back, I watched Entourage, the show. And there's a scene in Entourage in the second season or the third season, I don't know. Yeah, the third season. So there's a scene where the lead character, Vincent Chase, so he goes to a house for a party, and there's a pool over there, and he actually says that this is my almost famous moment. Then I was like, okay, what's that? Like, I don't know. Then I searched it on Google, that what's almost famous. Then I got to know, okay, this is a film. So I thought, like, okay, I'll just watch it. So I watched it, and I was like, I'm not watching a film. I'm seeing the entire film through the eyes of William, through the eyes of Cameron Crowe, who has lived this life, and who, like, in the young age of 15, he's been like hanging out with this band and like just chilling with them. He's actually also losing his virginity there. So like that's so cool about this whole life. So actually like right from the starting of the film, I totally loved the music as well. Like I think, what was the first music, the Christmas song. Yeah, yeah. Like it's so funny, like the entire scene. I think the Xmas thing which is actually cut from the extended cut. Like the original cut is 2 hours, and the extended cut is 40 minutes. I actually watched that 2 hours 40 minutes cut, and it's absolutely amazing. It's equally funny as well, because whenever the mother, Frances McDormand's character, comes in, I was like, like something funny will happen here, and she'll give lecture to anyone. And like in this viewing experience as well, like I was shocked, because the hotel manager also, like she didn't spare him. Like she actually told him to write "don't do drugs" on a piece of paper. And I was like, okay, she can do anything. And that was so
Oh,
funny
mother
about it.
God, she's a fun woman, is what he says, right? The manager.
Yeah, she's a piece of work, I think. Like, and like I was
She's
like,
a piece of
wow.
work,
Yeah, and I was like, I was laughing at the whole time whenever Frances McDormand's character came in. But except the last scene. The last scene, I don't know. The last scene, it was kind of an emotional thing for me. Like I think at the end she got to know, she understood William, and like when this character Russell Hammond comes to his door, and I thought, okay, now she understands what is rock music, and like what William's life is. So I actually like felt good for her as well. So that's the thing. So I actually wanted to ask you, like, what was your favorite scenes in this film?
oh shit, favorite scenes. My God. There's definitely all the scenes in the bus, right? Like those are my favorite scenes. They are iconic moments in themselves, right? Like you are in this tour bus and there are so many layers of relationships, right? Like even if you look at it, the way they're sitting, आगे से लेके पीछे तक, there is almost like a hierarchy of the way they are, in real life as well. I mean, in the band life as well, the drummer is always bichara sitting in a place where he's forgotten. And he's also in that same position when they're in that plane which is about to crash, right? And that plane crash scene is also like a nod to Lynyrd Skynyrd, because a lot of the members, that was an iconic take on this very tragic moment in American pop culture history, when the members of Lynyrd Skynyrd band were in a plane and that plane crashed. And I think some 4 to 5 people in that plane died, which were some band members and their families. And it was also at the prime of their career, as a band, when this tragedy happened. So there is a bit of a nod to that moment in the movie as well. And I think you understand a lot of the band relationship dynamics a lot more in those bus scenes as well. And like from the moment when they get into the bus and they charge through the gates of like this one venue jahan pe they finish a gig early and leave, to the point where they're having like this they've had like a difficult few days, and then now they're in the bus and they're recuperating, and they break into this Elton John song, right? Like Tiny Dancer. There's such iconic emotional moments being brought live to cinema just through those scenes in the bus, that really give you a glimpse of how, like the lived experience of being on tour can do to people. Because like even when you're in a band, right, or for anybody who is an artist and lives this kind of life, you feel that you are slightly above mass humanity, because you're always projecting yourself as like this stage persona, right? Like I have to feel things, I have to live things, and then I have to put myself into this piece of art, and then I have to share it with the world. So when they're in the bus, they're kind of like a level above, everybody else is still below them. And those moments is when they realize that they're actually human, and that they have so many of their own human emotions as well that they're dealing with, that they're not really superhuman. So I think those moments and that relationship building that happens in the bus scenes are really iconic for me. And Willem Bichara also is like caught in that world. मतलब वो तो आया था अपनी कहानी ढूंढने, and throughout the movie he's chasing Russell के please भाई interview दे दे, interview दे दे, interview दे दे. And that guy is just like stringing him along throughout, and because he's stringing him along, he's growing up as well, right? Like he grows up in that bus also. For Penny Lane also, she hits like rock bottom in that bus. For Russell Hammett also, he realizes that he is not like a golden god like he keeps claiming. He is like a human being who's completely flawed and egoistic in that bus. And even the drummer has that moment in the plane, but like he suddenly has a voice that is noticeable in that bus. So I think that bus is like a running theme in that movie that is so iconic. So for me, all the scenes in the bus are like speak a different language every time I watch them.
Okay, but like, didn't you like the ending scene where like they are in the plane and like all those confession scenes? Like, I actually liked that the most.
I'm gay. Yeah, that was very funny.
I actually liked that the most. Like, I think the lead singer
Tension
started
build
it.
हो गई थी ना. There was no escaping. अभी तो सच आ गया बाहर. कि मौत होने वाली
So
है.
you actually mentioned very lightly because the band which you talked about, actually the members died from that plane crash, and I think now I can figure out that Cameron Crowe can set up something like that. And what if they died and they can like they would confess all those stuff. So like I think that was a brilliant idea doing that as well. So I very much liked it.
Giving too much being closure. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was cool.
absolutely. But have you done this thing like in the very starting of the film? His William's sister actually tells him that just look under look under your bed, and
Oh my God, yeah.
under the candlelight. Have you like listened to
यार मैं confession, I have done it because I am that crazy person who really went deep into this. So I have a younger brother who, and we have like an age gap. So I also always used to feel like, yeah, I wish I was the younger person and I had an older sister or an older brother who would give me like this gift, and you know, like I'll find it and I'll be like, okay, whatever. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's true, right? Like it's a trip. All music is a trip essentially. What else is it? Like, so I mean, forget candlelight. I have done like stupid things. Like I would like really go deep into music and like go crazy a little bit. But I mean, you have to fall in love with that music, right? And also there is this one line in that movie. It's I think towards the end when Russell Hammett is sitting with one of those women. I forget the character's name only, and she's like, look at these new bandits. They are eating all the steak. They don't really care. They just want to be seen, you know, like they just want to be seen. None of them are really in love with the music. And she says, wait, I've written it down because I really love that dialogue. Give me a second.
I think Anna Paquin's character says that.
Not Anna Paquin, the other one.
Okay.
Shit, I can't find it now. 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Crap. But essentially, like, you know, like again, like the Cameron Crowe's sincerity really comes in because it is so easy to make a movie on rock music as a movie about rock, drugs, sex, and rock and roll, right? Like that's the stereotype that everybody talks about. But this is the love story, you know, set in the backdrop of rock music, and he's really trying to take the taboo of it, that it's not just a party, like it's real people doing honest work and making something that will humanly, you know, connect you to each other and really give meaning to your life. And the medium they're using is music to tell the story. So I really felt connected to a lot of the dialogues in the movie, right? Like even when William, like he has this moment where he's like, "Arey, why do you guys keep saying that I'm just a, you know, simple boy, like this innocent boy sitting in the corner. I am dark, I'm mysterious, I can be dangerous, I am the enemy. You have to to be scared of me. Like he's trying to make himself heard and think, I have to have a voice. I'm being relevant right now, right? Like small things like these, I think really added a lot more depth to the film and really like gave people a deep insight into what it could be about. And you a little while ago, you mentioned that Frances McDormand के सारे जितने भी dialogues थे बहुत ही interesting थे. Her moments like really added a lot more, comedy to the movie. So I was watching this podcast. The movie did 20 years, 2 years ago. So there is this really like cool podcast by James Miller. So there was a casting story that originally Brad Pitt was supposed to be cast as Russell Hammett and not Billy Crudup. So he went through multiple like screen tests and things like that. Okay. So that scene now when Frances McDormand calls and then William is talking to her on the phone, and then Russell Hammett takes the phone and she says something to him which is off camera, and he's like, "Your mom, I spoke to your mom. She freaked me out." Right. And William says, "She means well." It's such a funny scene. But in the podcast, right, like Cameron Crowe is narrating that Brad Pitt did that screen tested that scene 2-3 times. And every time he said that we would be on the floor like laughing because he did it so well. His comic timing was perfect. Like it's just the way he would say it. Like he'd pick up the phone and say, "Your mom freaked me out." so so I think those things were like really interesting to the dialogue. The dialogues really added depth to the movie, even when they were in the mold of just comedy or just drama. They were just really telling the story in another different way, which I
But
love.
in that podcast, did you get to know that why did Brad Pitt didn't make it in the like final casting?
So he actually was cast and he said no.
Oh.
He dropped out. Yeah. So nobody knows why, but I think what Cameron said is that maybe, when we were narrating the character to him and the way it was written on page, it wasn't really coming across to him as like a character that really added a lot of depth to the movie. And maybe he wasn't really falling in love with the character, so he kind of like, said no. In fact, Meryl Streep was supposed to be Frances McDormand's character. Natalie Portman was supposed to be Kate Hudson character, right? And I'm really happy that that didn't happen, because Meryl Streep, Natalie Portman, and Brad Pitt are such stars, right? They would have not let William's character shine. They would have overpowered the screen, and it wouldn't have been the same movie. I really feel that.
Absolutely. It happens in like many films. This thing, like the stars actually overpower the character. So and the character actually, the lead character actually becomes less powerful, less like important. So this actually happens in mainstream Hollywood films. But like you said, this casting situation happened for the good. Billy Crudup actually got casted like
अच्छा
in the
हुआ ब्रैड पिट को नहीं मिली.
no, actually, because I actually watched the morning show and I was surprised that the guy who played Russell Hammond is in this show, and like he's playing a ruthless character, a smart character in this show. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was actually shocked in that. But have you watched any of I'll tell you one another thing. Actually, this is a personal experience for me. After watching this film, I actually researched a bit, and I didn't get any film which is very similar to this film. Like I was thinking like, okay, well, I'll like watch something else as well. Like but I couldn't find anything. So like I was actually
Movie on rock and roll,
rock and roll,
like a
like the a coming of age rock and roll, like this kind of thing. So I couldn't, but actually thankfully last year I found this film called The Boat That Rocked. I think you should watch it.
yeah.
This film is directed and written by Richard Curtis. So like
Okay.
yeah, so like it's not that cool like Almost Famous, but it's like it's something. So the story goes that this guy, this character, which is of the same age as William, he goes to a boat, and so the boat actually plays rock music on a radio, on a pirated radio. So that is the story of that film. So you should definitely watch
So
this film.
क्या फिर तो मैं पक्का देखूंगी. There is another movie actually. It's called Sunset Strip, and it is based on the Sunset Strip. But again, it doesn't have the kind of same, like वो coming of age angle नहीं है. It's just like Sunset Strip ये था, इसमें ये होता था. It's like that. I mean, I get what you're saying. Because the after feeling of watching Almost Famous इतना सही है ना, like it creates this appetite कि मेरे को I want to know more about this time, like I want to live more in this world, right? So you want to see more of it, but yeah, it's nothing has come close to it actually.
But I actually wanted to ask you about the music of the film. Like which music stand out to you, like stood out to you?
And it was an era, right? Like there is so much in it. There's Joni Mitchell. There is, of course, I mean, Stillwater's Fever Dog is also in it. Elton John's Tiny Dancer is in it, which is iconic also.
The first one,
of course,
which was the first one, like she had the cover, like the Williams sister had actually had the cover, the vinyl thing in like the when in the very early moments of the film. Simon and
I think that was Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah,
it
exactly.
Garfunkel vinyl. Yeah. That was like again, that was a iconic 70s like LP that I think a lot of the good music that I found also, including Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin and everything else, came from Williams' meetings with Lester Bangs, who was really a cream writer. Like he's based on a true character. Philip Seymour Hoffman, who played Lester Bangs, was a real person in life, okay, who used to write in Cream magazine, and he really influenced Cameron Crowe's sensibilities in music, and he guided him. Ke tum ye karo, tum wo mat karo, and he was exactly like that kind of person in real life. So so a lot of the music that he would play in his radio station, right? That music were like just that was iconic stuff as well. Like that was again Black Sabbath, and I think at that time Cameron Crowe himself like put himself into his 70s brain again. So at that time, music that was important to him were all these like the Untitled album by the Untitled album by what is this called? I mean, Led Zeppelin was an iconic influence on him. So he really wanted that to be represented. So he plays, tracks of it somewhere here and there, but just in the background. It's not really a prevalent throughout the movie. But like the original soundtrack of this movie, right, is very difficult to find. Like even now, because I think that they didn't get licenses to play the full tracks, but just like a few tracks here and there in the background, like just sections of it in the background. So there isn't like, it's not easy to find the original motion picture soundtrack of this film because none of it is original music actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's all like music that's taken from here and there.
Yeah, so it's all licensed.
It's all licensed. So yeah. So one more thing. Yeah. What is it? 1 second. I'll just tell you. I had researched this and I found it very fascinating. So Russell Brand ka jo character hai na, it's based on Peter Frampton. He was like a legendary guitarist who was this guitarist with mystique in the background. And he played on a lot of bands that really, he played with Bee Gees, he played with many different artists of repute. And this guy's interview was always very difficult to get for Cameron Crowe in real life. So he based his character of Russell Brand on Peter Frampton quite a lot.
Russell Hammond, right?
Movie. Yes, Russell Hammond. Yeah. And even that incident where he's like trying very hard to get his interview is based on this. So the Allman Brothers was again like a big influence on Cameron Crowe. Uske bhi gaane kafi na, like patches mein, I think maybe they didn't get licenses for all the tracks, just played throughout in the background of the film. So the Allman Brothers ka na ek bahut hi iconic interview Cameron Crowe ko mila, where he like really chased everybody in the band to get interviews. Okay, like ek insan ke paas jaake, manager ke paas jaake, license, like label head, families, relatives, people that were important to the band members, he interviewed all of them. Reh gaya end mein Gary Allman, the lead man of the band, whose brother was also part of the original Allman Brothers, who had just died. And he is going crazy because same thing what Russell Brand does to William, just keep stringing him along, chal idhar chalte hain, udhar chalte hain, till one day he has a very vulnerable moment and he tells Cameron Crowe these really deep, dark personal stories about himself. Okay, that interview is recorded, and Cameron Crowe at this point must be 17 or 18. Okay, he's very happy. He's like, I'm going to get first Rolling Stone cover. So he goes and sits in his hotel room and he's telling his friend, I cracked this amazing interview. Suddenly his phone rings. He picks up the phone and his face becomes ashen. He's just been called by Gary Oldman saying, you please come to my, Gary Oldman, you come to my hotel room and bring the tapes. So Gary Oldman gets paranoid. He says, how, you tell me you are not from the FBI and that you are not, snooping on me and you are not like carrying, catching evidence on me. Please prove this to me and leave these tapes here. So he's like, shit, the interview of my life, I can't like do because, this guy's had a moment in life. So anyways, he somehow got out of that mess. And Cameron Crowe tells in an interview that had that incident not happened, the story of William and his struggle with Russell Hammett and everything would not have been written in Almost Famous, which I was like, wow. So everything is based on true life incidents. Is movie.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But like which cameos did you like there were many pretty cameos. Jimmy Fallon had a cameo, like even Anna Paquin like had a character there were many known faces.
This is difficult to think. There's so many interesting moments in that. I definitely, Jimmy Fallon ka cameo is quite memorable because he's playing this like really outlandish character who's like the new band manager, label head who'll be like, yeah, I'm going to make this band famous. Anna Paquin is like a hit or a miss. Pata hai, wo hai, nahi bhi hai. She's very like comfortable in the background. I don't know. What about you? Who would you think is a good cameo?
Jimmy Fallon and Frances McDormand. Best thing.
Frances McDormand to bhai.
Best
She's
thing.
Iconic.
Yeah, like I think yeah, like I think she was amazing in every scene, every damn scene. She was amazing. Like she was playing herself, I think, and that was a very fascinating thing for me in this film actually. And like she was the comic, like she was not being funny, but like she was a comic timing for this film. So I like that in her character. So I just love that thing of this film.
Yeah, I really liked actually Philip Seymour Hoffman's cameos quite a lot. Like I feel like he was Lester Banks in real life also. Like he seemed a little, troubled, but also very erratic and quite quirky as a human being. So his cameo I enjoyed quite a lot.
Wow. Wow. Such a such a unique choice, I think. Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah.
Less screen time, but yeah.
Yeah, matlab, and he said, no, like at some point he told him also, said, you're not cool, what are you doing, why are you going? He said, I'm going with Stillwater, he bangs the phone. I quite liked it. I remember that. I'm like, shit.
And even cool. Like he told that like we are uncool, like we are not the members of the band, like we are uncool. And like I think, and he itself told that this like they are I think destroying the genre, destroying what we love about rock and roll. I think he's the one told to William, right?
Yeah, he did. He said that they are destroying rock and roll. Like rock and roll. See, any person, what I have noticed is like, so I did this. Okay, I saw this movie. I got completely affected, and I altered the course of my career. I went and I became a music journalist. I did work in Rolling Stone magazine in India. Wow. So I mean, I wanted to be like one of the tribe. I wanted to be part of the scene, right? Wo alag baat hai that Indian independent music scene didn't really grab my attention. Didn't even last long. Okay, it was really like 2-3 years in the middle when it was iconic. I used to go and like, have a lot of fun, go backstage and, really enjoy myself. But what I realized is that there are purists. Unko hai ki if music has reached this level, it should stay here. Please isme milawat mat karo, right? So anybody who would try to do like a remix or try to contemporize that sound or just have a little bit more fun with it, the purists would always say that no, don't do this, don't do milawat in my pie. And it's same for books as well, right? And for movies as well. You'll find people who'll be like, no, it has been made, the best movies have been made, the best songs have been written, the best books have been written, everything that's coming out today is garbage. That's criticism for the sake of criticism. So I feel like a lot of that was brought to life because true critics are like that. True critic by nature is not supposed to like something, right? You're supposed to criticize things. So he was that person, and I think he was such a cool character. Now he was like, no, fuck the system is shit, people are shit, what is this song, oh, throw this away, listen to this is the best. That's my definition of a true critic, and Philip Seymour Hoffman brought it to life so well. And I think that stays with me even till today, because in real life critics are like that. You are a critic, you are also possibly like that.
I'm not a critic, but yeah. Wow, such an interesting conversation. But sadly, I have to end this conversation here. Thank you so much, Sharon, for coming to my podcast. It's been a real honor having a fellow YouTuber on this podcast talking about her favorite film. So, like, it's an honor.
Thank you, Sanket. I wish you all the best, and I can't wait to see what all your next video.
Sure. I hope like you also come to one of my live session videos as well, like which I do on mainstream popular films. So like hope so. I'll see you there as well. Sure. Thank you so much, Sharon, and goodbye. Yeah.